what is your memory around Revenge of the Sith coming out in 2005?
I actually have really great theatrical release memories, even going back to the special editions that we kind of talked about before we hit record. Because I was a huge Star Wars fan. I think I found it when I was like 7 or 8 at a neighbor's house. And then I grew up with the original trilogy, pre-special edition on VHS tapes. I think my dad got them off the Sci-Fi Channel, and he was, paid enough attention to cut the commercials out for me and everything. So that was cool. So when the special editions came out, my mom started doing this thing for me where she would let me skip school that day, and we would go together to like whatever the first showing of the day was. And she doesn't even care about Star Wars. It was just something for us to do together. And we kept that going. We even did that with the sequel trilogy. So when like Mandalorian and Grogu comes out, I will take my mom to see it on opening day first showing before I see it with anyone else. So that was really cool. And Revenge of the Sith, I was 2005. I was finishing my associate's degree going on to my bachelor's. So I was already in college, and we still carved out the time. So I had a really great experience with it. And then that night at midnight, I went with my, my friend group. And so I saw it twice in the same day. And I did that for all of the prequels. How about you? What was your...
I just have more memories around just the exterior stuff with the movie than like going to see the movie itself or watching the movie itself. Like I just remember like being hyped for it, that kind of thing. Like that's sort of the main focus, I think, more than anything for around Revenge of the Sith time. I may not have actually seen it in theaters now that I think about it, because it was PG-13. I may have been too young, and my parents may not have let me go see it. I remember watching it a lot, like at home and stuff, but I have so many memories around just the merch and like being hyped for a new Star Wars. And this felt different than when Attack of the Clones came out and when Phantom Menace came out, because you were seeing more images at least, of this era of Star Wars mixed with the original trilogy, because it was all about like the sagas complete at this point,
coming
right?
together.
Yeah. So you had like my favorite. So my sister was dating a guy and he knew I loved Star Wars. So he got me Burger King had these watches where you could flip them around and they had different characters on them, like on the wristband. Mm-hmm. And so on one side would be like a prequel trilogy character, and then on the other side would be an original trilogy character. So I had like the Darth Vader one, and I had like a clone trooper one that was like you flipped over as a stormtrooper, that kind of thing. And so I have a lot of memories around that, a lot of memories around like just I was like, I'm like a visual person, a visual artist. I was too old to like have storybooks, but I desperately wanted the storybook of Revenge of the Sith, not because like I couldn't read chapter books or anything. I just wanted pictures I could draw.
Yeah,
like, that's all I wanted was the reference thing. So it's more that stuff. And like you talked about your dad bringing home original trilogy VHSs. He recorded the finale to the 2003 Clone Wars for me before Revenge of the Sith came out. And he woke me up early because he did the same thing, like, recorded it, cut out the commercials. He woke me up early to bring me the VHS tape, and he knew I was so hyped. So I got the VHS tape, and I was so excited, and I wanted to go show my other siblings. And I like came out of the room, and like I was still like waking up, and I was like, "Look what Dad brought me!" And I tripped and fell flat on my face and smashed the VHS tape.
Oh no! Before you got to watch it.
Thankfully, it played still.
Okay.
But like it was like it limited its lifespan at that point about how much I could watch it from that point on.
Right.
My dad thankfully transferred it over to another VHS tape, but it was like that's sort of the memories I have of Revenge of the Sith was just that, that stuff.
That's kind of cool because I'm like the total opposite. Like I talked about my theatrical memory, but at that time, because I was in college and I was broke, I was trying to pay for as much college out of pocket as I could because student loans, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. So I wasn't buying merchandise. I wasn't really reading the books or the comics at that point. I loved Star Wars and I had a ton of expanded universe stuff that I'm sure I was still revisiting, but I wasn't really grabbing up everything that was coming out for the movie that I could. And I remember there being hype around it, and I was personally excited. But I also remember, like whenever something Star Wars comes out now, certain people love it no matter what, certain people hate it no matter what, and there's a lot of us in the middle who we like things and we dislike things. We could talk about it like normal people should. Attack of the Clones was the divisive thing at that time. So everyone was kind of burned with the Phantom Menace because that hype was. I like the Phantom Menace. I'm not trying to trash anything, but it could have been the best movie ever made and that would ever be made, and it couldn't live up to the hype that it had. So people felt let down, even though they're the ones who built it up. And then Attack of the Clones, I know, is a lot of people's least favorite Star Wars property, at least from the George Lucas era. So going into Revenge of the Sith, it did feel like the stakes were there because it was connecting to the original trilogy, but it was also less people seemed to care, at least for my orbit.
Do you remember feeling like, did you feel like when you saw the prequel movies in theaters, did you feel like disappointed with how they turned out? Like, or did you feel like each one was a good experience?
I loved them all. It didn't cross my mind that a Star Wars movie could be bad.
Yeah.
It just wasn't an option. So things like Jar Jar, I was a few years too old for him. I was 14, well, probably 13 in 99. I probably was turning 14. So I was, he's probably better for a 9, 10-year-old. But I had a little cousin who was maybe 8, and he loves Jar Jar. So those scenes, while I didn't love them, I wasn't like, this is an abomination, this is garbage, get it away from me. I just waited for the next thing to happen that I did like. It didn't occur to me that it would be bad. And even Attack of the Clones that a lot of people hate. It's like, okay, some of Anakin's dialogue's not great, but that's kind of the point of his awkward character. But I thought the arena fight and starting the Clone Wars was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. So looking back on it now, I still like it, and a lot of it is built on nostalgia. I don't think they're bad movies by any stretch, but I do see all those cracks that people then probably saw that I just wasn't aware of.
Yeah, and I've definitely gone through my phases of mixed feelings on this movie, but I think since Rise of Skywalker came out, I've been pretty positive towards the prequels and everything. Mm-hmm. Not because of Rise of Skywalker, but I think Rise of Skywalker pointed out to me, like, I love Star Wars in theaters. Like, that's just it. Like, at the end of the day, like, I love
that experience.
I love that experience, and I love Star Wars movies, regardless of whatever quality it is. And I think that was something that I appreciate about Rise of Skywalker, is that I think it's definitely the worst, but it still gave me a feeling that I love to feel all the time. It's the world I like to spend the most time in.
If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe.
This movie, which is so funny, this movie brings back so many positive emotions about the most dire moment in galactic history in Star Wars. Because it is like, and I think the movie does a good job of still being like, there's still play elements to this. That's what makes good Star Wars is the play.
When we were talking about recording this one, it was funny because you were like, oh, you good to record today? I said, yeah, today works. I have time. We're going to do Revenge of the Sith, right? And you're like, yeah. I even typed out, we can get back to talking about fun Star Wars.
Yeah.
But the ending is there's nothing fun about a guy losing all of his limbs and burning and his friend leaving him there to die. And then Padme died. But it's like, it still is fun Star Wars.
This is the movie where Anakin murders a bunch of children.
I didn't even talk about that.
Anakin kills a bunch of kids and also his pregnant wife. And his pregnant wife,
to his knowledge, the child.
Yeah. His pregnant wife, who is sidelined, which is so sad. Like, it's like she's such a huge, powerful character in the first 2 prequel movies, and then gets sidelined for this movie for the most part. And then just is sad the whole time and concerned. And I'm like, this movie's fun. Like, I'm just like, this is like, and then
initial reaction, fun movie, great movie.
Great time, good time in this one.
I think Padme's death, not the fact that she died, but the actual way that it happened with basically she died from being sad was like, that is my biggest gripe with the entire...
Same.
I mean, even down to the little thing where the droid delivers the line of she's losing her will to live. How about the guy who's in touch with every living organism ever? Why doesn't that guy give the line?
Well, why does she have to go out like that too? Because again, man, watching Phantom Menace, she's such a badass. And Attack of the Clones, she's such a badass.
Yeah, Attack of the Clones, she's the first one to get kind of free in the arena and pick up a gun.
Yeah, like, and then just to be like, she just didn't feel like living anymore. It's like, what? Like,
yeah.
She's been fighting. She's been this furious fighter in the last two films. And that's sort of even like people bring up like, oh, they cut out the Mon Mothma scene in this movie. If you watch that, she doesn't, it's kind of out of character for her then too, because Bail and Mon Mothma in that deleted scene, when they come to her with like, we're forming a rebel alliance, she's like, let's not talk about this. I'm like, what? You are the biggest rebel in these three films. Why are you all of a sudden like,
you have like one of the best lines pre-Andor, because I think every line in Andor season 2 is an incredible line.
Yes.
But the thunderous applause with democracy dying line is just like, it's so powerful. That's not the girl who dies from sadness.
No, and that's the one moment in this movie where you see classic Padme. Otherwise, it's just sort of this a very out of character person the whole time.
Yeah, they kind of didn't know what to do with her, but they needed to die for Darth Vader's transformation, which I get. But like, he was choking her with the Force. Why not have it be like she's hanging on to get into childbirth? Oh, we're losing her. Get the kids out. Like, you could have made it urgent.
So much stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a really weird choice to just not really address it.
It is, yeah. And especially when you look at, there's some really great concept art for Mustafar where she's a bit more active in trying to bring down Anakin and things like that. So like, it's really good to look up. Like, I recommend if you haven't looked at it, I'll send some to you later. It's really cool. Cool. Like what some of the artists envisioned as like a Padme going out or like going to confront Anakin. But instead it's just like, oh, you're breaking my heart. And I'm like, this was the person who like had guns hidden in her throne and like, you know, had...
Yeah, when she was 14 years old.
Yeah, like I just sort of, it is a bit, that's my biggest gripe with this movie is just sidelining one of the coolest characters in Star Wars. The mother of Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker, for Pete's sake, you know?
Right, yeah. Princess Leia, who's like the strongest woman in Star Wars, and Luke Skywalker, who literally saves the galaxy and returns his father from the dark side.
Yeah, but it is, people have pointed out before, that's a pattern with George Lucas with his female characters, like, because that's Leia in Return of the Jedi also. Like, she doesn't have a very active role in Return of the Jedi either. So it's sort of like he kind of writes very strong, very active female characters, and then by the third movie, he just doesn't know what to do with them. And I have a bit of a meta take on that, relating back to Marsha Lucas, because they had such a contentious relationship towards the end of their marriage, that I feel like maybe that's a bit of his resentment towards her coming out in the female characters.
It could be. I don't know if it's so targeted, because he's obviously not like overtly sexist or something where he's like, I'm going to build up this female character just to do nothing with her later.
Yeah,
but I think just the way like the dice fall, he's like, well, I don't really know what to do with them, so go over there.
Yeah. And I kind of wonder if by the time Return of the Jedi was wrapping up, his relationship with Marsha was deteriorating. You know, if he just sort of needed maybe another, like a female on set being like, maybe this is the role you give to the strong female character that you wrote in the beginning. You know,
and I don't even think Leia's as sidelined as bad as Padme is in the third of their trilogy, because she's with the ground team. She's shooting stormtroopers. I
love Return of the Jedi so much. She kills Jabba the Hutt, and you know.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, she does get sidelined a lot in that movie, but nothing compared to Padme. No, I agree. Like, it's just sort of
and the Padme thing might have just been pacing. You know, if they had a lot of time with her trying to talk Anakin down before he fights Obi-Wan, it's like, we're approaching the 3-hour mark. We got to get these two fighting. That's what people are here for. You know, not to make excuses for it, but it was more the literal death scene that I was like, you couldn't have just reworked it a little bit.
Yeah, and you've probably read a lot about this, of like all the alternate versions of Revenge of the Sith, like all the storylines that got cut, and then eventually came into the Clone Wars and things like that. Like, Boba Fett was going to be a bigger character. Han Solo was going to be in this movie. You know, there was a lot that George Lucas wanted to put in Revenge of the Sith and didn't end up in there. So I kind of feel like also there was we have so much ground to cover in so little time that maybe we don't have enough time to give it to Padme, but it would have been nice to just give her some kind of agency at the end. Like, it would have been something, you know. this movie has so much in it. It's crazy that we still talk about what, isn't in it,
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But that's also more pertinent now that we're watching like this kind of like weird streaming wars where yes, Andor was phenomenal, but then like we talked about Obi-Wan before, the series.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Obi-Wan. How you feel, like, for me, it doesn't affect Revenge of the Sith. Does Obi-Wan, the series, affect you watching Revenge of the Sith at all?
I think it gives me like a little bit more insight to the character, but it's not being such big Star Wars fans. We've read the books and the comics and listened to all the things. So I don't think it really gave us any new information, but just to see the two actors do it. My view of the Obi-Wan series is everything between Obi-Wan and Vader, I love. If they made it a 2-hour movie, theater or straight to Disney Plus, I don't care. It probably would be top tier Star Wars for a lot of people. But they had to take it, and this is what I hate about all these streaming wars, is you have a great 2-hour idea. Let's tell it over 8 hours, or even 6 hours. You don't have enough content. So then you add in a character like Reva, who I think if Reva was introduced in a comic or in any other series, a really cool character, actually. It's a really unique take. But for her to take all the focus off the two guys we showed up to see, and I'm not saying guys as in I'm here to see men and not women, and they, nothing like that. But we're there for Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader / Anakin Skywalker. The finale alone, I'll watch the entire series just to watch that finale. That fight on the Rocky Moon planet with the cracked face mask where, we did it in Rebels with Ahsoka. Now it's the other side for Obi-Wan. And the way the voice is going in and out and the lightsaber effects coloring the faces, that is incredible.
Yeah.
The other stuff I'm okay with. I liked the Inquisitors in live action. I liked Reva. I just didn't want them in this show.
Yeah. I don't like Reva only because she is a tool for the plot. I do not know what she wants the whole show. Like, it changes also from scene to scene, and how she gets it does not make sense with her motivations. And I love the idea of her character.
That's more what I'm saying.
But it does not it's a very poorly written character who does nothing except what the plot wills her to do.
Yes.
Because she wants to do it. And that's a real shame, because Moses Ingram, phenomenal actress, phenomenal martial artist, like really good. It's a shame on the writing and the producing that you have this phenomenal actor who is capable of giving maybe one of the best performances in Star Wars, and you wrote a shit part for her. That's the sucky part about Reva. And I agree.
Okay, yeah. You're fleshing out what I was saying a little bit better than I was, where I liked her take on it with. I know some people don't like it when other people know that Anakin became Darth Vader. As long as it doesn't become everybody, I'm okay. Same thing with Order 66
what a cool
Survivors.
Idea.
But the fact that she was stabbed and all of her friends died right in front of her, so she goes on this revenge kick. If they made like a standalone comic run of that, it could be it could be like I spit on your grave for Star Wars. Like, insane.
In my mind, there are so many remakes I would do. I would just make it the Reva show. Like, it would be awesome.
Yeah, do her own thing. Don't include any legacy characters, except for obviously she's going after Vader. But I would also do Vader like a horror movie where she doesn't see him until the end because she has to lose.
I think the one thing that leaves an impact on me from the Obi-Wan show is the Vader stuff, especially how he treats Reva when he walks into Fortress Inquisitorius and force chokes her like in that epic way. And when he's walking down the street in those first episodes and he's
just ripping all the villagers out and
killing people, that part's great. That fits in with Revenge of the Sith's, stuff. I don't like the AI James Earl Jones voice because you can tell what parts of Star Wars the machine's picking from. That's distracting to me. But the physicality of Hayden in the suit is really good in that show.
Yeah, and the fact that they got Hayden back.
Yeah. And I think that show, I feel like even another headcanon thing is just, do some voice modulation on Hayden's voice, like instead of doing the machine learning James Earl Jones
now
voice.
It probably wouldn't be an issue because now you could it would just mimic it. It wouldn't borrow. It would just do it.
Yeah, so I
The
feel
only
like
thing that makes me okay with that is that James Earl Jones
Right.
signed it away. Like he was okay with it.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
I think the technology wasn't there for the show though, and I feel like there was, yeah, the show should have been a movie. Should have had more focus on Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Should have only had focus on them.
Only focus on them. Should have
Especially
had,
because it was the lowest budgeted Star Wars series. So it's like save all that money just for the two guys.
and then put like, we don't need all these characters too. Like there's just so much in it that's just like, we don't need all of this. But also like there was, yeah, no. Obi-Wan sort of, it doesn't make me feel anything. It just sort of makes me feel like exhausted. Like I'm just like, oh boy, more of this. But like, I think that what works after this, what makes Revenge of the Sith better, is Bad Batch and Rebels and Andor.
Well, that last season of Clone Wars, where they brought Clone Wars back and it ties in. I watched that season like a movie.
The last episodes especially is like,
yeah, like I can skip
really
the thing
good.
Where Ahsoka's with the two sisters. I don't care about, I mean, I really like Ahsoka, but that storyline is, I have nothing against it, but if I'm going to rewatch it in context of getting to Revenge of the Sith, I just skip until like, oh wait, Anakin killed Dooku and now he's turned, and she's just hearing it through the grapevine, and she's like, this doesn't add up to me. That's not the Anakin that I know. Like that stuff is so powerful, even in a cartoon, it really adds a lot.
I think like